This video is brought to you by PrizePicks. A lot of people are asking this question: should the Browns trade back or not? Is it a bad thing if the Browns trade back or not? And while this answer does change year to year based on what's available at your given selection, what makes sense for your team, what stage is your team at, and what's available via a trade back, all of that stuff affects how you feel about trading back. Another thing that affects how you feel about trading back is how much confidence do you have in the person making the picks after the trade back, right? If you're going to get more selections, well, how do you feel about the confidence of the guy making the picks? For example, last year the Cleveland Browns traded back. Haven't heard anybody really complain seriously about that. Like maybe one or two people have complained, but if you look at what the Browns got, Mason Graham, who showed flashes of being an all-pro caliber defensive tackle, and you got Quincy Judkins and then an extra first-round pick. And Quincy is also somebody who showed flashes of being a all-pro caliber player in what is overall one of the best draft classes the Browns have had ever. Like, you look at that draft class, you look at every other draft class the Browns have had. If those guys continue on the path that they ended their rookie year on, that's probably the best Browns draft class that they've had, most certainly since coming back in 1999. But we tend to argue about trading back or not as if it's a philosophical thing, almost like it's a religious debate, like it has no nuance, like it's always going to be the same every year. The Browns should never trade back. The Browns should always trade back. I want to have a more nuanced conversation about that. But first, I got to thank my sponsor, PrizePicks. Hey, let me talk to you about my sponsor for this year, PrizePicks. It's a fun way to win cash while you're watching your favorite teams. Forget complex betting rules. Their app is designed to be incredibly easy to use. Just pick more or less on a few player stats and lock in your lineup. Speaking of, here are my picks for this upcoming NFL season. They have Myles Garrett at 14 sacks here. I think he will get more than 14 sacks. Joe Burrow at 3,875 passing yards. I think he'll be a 4,000-yard passer. I'm going to go with more. They have Derrick Henry at 1,224 yards. I'm going to go less than that. Check to see if PrizePicks is available in your state. You can follow me on the app at KWEN_C to see all of my lineups. Download the PrizePicks app today. Play $5 and get $50 in lineups when you download the app using the link in the description. So for this year, yeah, I think it makes sense for the Browns to trade back. I think the bigger question for the Cleveland Browns does it make sense for the Browns to trade back, and who's willing to trade back with them, right? Like, I think that's the bigger question. The reason I think this year it makes sense for the Cleveland Browns to trade back, if you just look at the prospects available to them at 6, they're not on par with the usual quality of prospect that's available at some of the more desirable position groups for Cleveland. Here's exactly what I mean by this, right? I've talked about this with Carnell Tate. If you look at wide receivers who have been drafted number 6 overall, you will find a lot of wide receivers who have not much in common with Carnell Tate. And that's no disrespect to Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate can have a great career. Carnell Tate could eventually play his way up to being worth the number 6 overall pick. I'm not down on Carnell Tate as a prospect, but the reality is, you look for a little bit more than Carnell Tate when you're getting ready to take a wide receiver number 6 overall. Same can be said for Mekhi Lemon. Same can be said for Jordan Tyson. If you look at the other position of need for the Cleveland Browns, it's Monroe Freeling at left tackle, right? Now, you could mess around and try to flip Francis Mauigoa or keep Francis Mauigoa at tackle and flip Titus Howard, which I think would be an intriguing situation. And I think if you look at the college career of Francis Mauigoa, it's certainly more worthy of the number 6 overall pick than Monroe, who just didn't have the length and consistency that a Francis Mauigoa had. But even then, Mauigoa in most draft classes wouldn't feel like a number 6 overall pick. Monroe Freeling doesn't really feel like a number 6 overall pick level prospect. It feels like somebody like at wide receiver, and should be betting on a lot of upside there. Certainly more than you would want to at number 6 overall. Like, number 6 overall is where you take like Penei Sewell, right? Tyron Smith. Like the best example I could give for this is like, look at what Jamar Chase was when he came out of LSU and how little guessing there was to do with Jamar Chase. It was literally, is Jamar Chase going to be really, really good or really, really, really good was the question with Jamar Chase, right? Penei Sewell, right, who was in the same draft class, is Penei Sewell going to be really, really good or really, really good? And it's been interesting to see the arguments go with a lot of people, right, who make the argument, oh, you have to take a wide receiver. Oh, you have to take a tackle here. But the reality is that the Bengals took Jamar Chase, and because they had Joe Burrow, that worked out for them. And the Lions took Penei Sewell, and that worked out for them too, right? Both teams had really good, successful paths after that aren't necessarily on the best right now because other parts of the team have fallen apart. But I don't think the Lions regret taking Penei Sewell. I don't think the Bengals regret taking Jamar Chase. Here's the thing. You just want a player who's worth the pick that you're using. We can do all this debate about player and what position is more worth it and all of that, but you just want to draft a player that's good. And the reality is, if you draft a good player, all this other bullshit we're debating about, wide receiver, left tackle, all this, it doesn't matter. If the Browns draft Monroe Freeling, number 6 overall, and he's really, really good, we're not going to give a fuck about what other wide receiver went in his draft class. If the Browns take Carnell Tate and he's amazing, we're not going to care that we didn't take a tackle at that position. Hell, the Browns took Myles Garrett, number 1 overall, in the same draft that Pat Mahomes, the best quarterback of this generation, was in. And it's not like people regret taking Myles Garrett. You want a good player when you're drafting that high, or something that leads to having good players on your roster when you draft somebody that high. We can get caught up in the minutia of it all, but let's say Monroe Freeling turns out to be an all-pro and Carnell Tate turns out to be an all-pro. We'll just be happy we got one of them if we took one of those players. I just have seen people debate this to no end, like there's a correct answer. There's not a correct answer here, right? You might have what you believe you want the team to do, but what you want the team to do doesn't necessarily mean that's the right thing. It's just what you want, what you think would work, right? Ultimately, there is no right answer to that question. It's a question that exists to make us debate until the draft, and that way people have more content about it. But that's just my 2 cents on the whole realm of debate that's been going on at number 6. But let's circle back to what people have talked about alongside this, which is the idea of trading back. And some people, they see trading back as punting on the opportunity to have great players. Some people see trading back on double down or investing in the idea of having more good players, right? There's a million ways you could boil down this conversation. But if you don't talk about the idea of trading back as if it's contextual or heavily like based on the context of the situation, then you're wasting your time. There's no golden answer or golden parachute to the answer of should you trade back or should you not. It's heavily reliant on what's in front of you. And what I have described with this draft, no matter how people want to flip it and shake it, right? And there's no blue chip wide receiver available at 6. There's no blue chip left tackle, and there's no blue chip quarterback available. If the Browns could get their hands on one of those 3 options, right? Let's say that there was a Jamar Chase in this draft class. I would be sitting here and telling the Browns, you would be stupid to trade back. Just take the blue chip. Just take Jamar Chase if he was available in this class, right? Let's say Penei Sewell was available in this draft class. I would be yelling at the Browns. It would be stupid to trade back because Penei Sewell is a blue chip prospect in a position of need. take him. If Joe Burrow were in this draft class and available to the Cleveland Browns at 6, well, let's use Justin Herbert, right? If Justin Herbert were in this draft class and available to the Cleveland Browns at 6, and the Browns did not want to take Justin Herbert, they traded back, that would be one of the dumbest decisions in Cleveland Browns history. But the reality is, no blue chip quarterback is going to be available at 6. If the unlikely scenario of Mendoza being available at 6 is there and the Browns don't take it, I will call them idiots. I think that's stupid to trade back from that opportunity, but I don't anticipate that being the case. Wide receiver wise, none of these guys are blue chip prospects. There's big holes in all three of these guys' games that you have big questions about. Doesn't mean that they're not going to be good players, but there's more questions that you would usually want when you're investing a pick as valuable as number 6. Carnell Tate wasn't a number 1 wide receiver at Ohio State. And when you're drafting somebody number 6 overall, you want somebody who has that experience being a number 1 wide receiver. You would feel a lot more comfortable if the guy ran a 4.3 or a 4.4. Carnell runs a 4.5, a high 4.5. If you're looking at Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson's a great athlete, all of that, but he hurt his hamstring during the pre-draft process. Dude gets injured all the time. He's just as likely to be a fixture on your injury report as well as like you have a fixture in your wide receiver room. And then Mekhi Lemon is super undersized, not as athletic as you would want for a guy that undersized. And while his tape is incredible at USC, you have concerns about how much that can translate in the NFL level when he's not long, when he's not strong, when he's not fast, and he's undersized. Certainly not somebody you take at number 6 overall. You have big questions about that at number 6 overall. You love it at 24. You don't love it at number 6 overall for those reasons, right? Same can be said with the tackle options. Monroe Freeling, you love Monroe Freeling. He's a good tackle. He's good tape, but you would like more and more dominant tape from somebody that you're taking for number 6 overall. There's also the question of health with Monroe Freeling that you got to throw in there as well. That you would not want to be questions for a guy that you're taking number 6 overall. Again, you're looking for a Penei Sewell when you're picking somebody number 6 overall. Monroe's very far away from a Penei Sewell style prospect. Not saying he can't be good. Just because you're not a blue chip prospect doesn't mean you can't be good, but it's certainly more of a risk, right? Just like wide receiver. Same can be said. Noah fits the bill more, but wonders questions about if he's even going to make it all the way to the 6th overall pick, because it seems like everywhere has some kind of peg to go in the top 4 of this draft class. But if he does make it to you at 6, I think that's a more intriguing conversation, and he's a more intriguing pick to take at number 6, and he makes a lot of sense in this draft class to take 6. But if we're zooming out on the grand scheme of draft classes, you wonder if that makes the most sense in the world, given that he is a right tackle that you're projecting to left tackle and did not play left tackle, despite the fact that like Miami didn't really have a lot of great options there at left tackle while he was there. So yeah, this year makes a ton of sense to trade back. The Browns have 3 big needs: wide receiver, quarterback, left tackle. And there is not a single option in this draft class that is so enticing at that position that you can't pass up the opportunity to get them because they're that good of a prospect, right? There's no blue chip opportunities awaiting them at those positions. And I'm gonna be honest, you look at the whole draft class, it's not really many blue chip prospects, if any blue chip prospects in this class. A lot of gold chip prospects, right? Some really nice prospects out there that can turn out to be really, really good players, maybe even elite players, but not a lot of blue chip players where you're like, oh man, the idea of getting this guy on your team, you lose your mind over, especially at positions of need for the Cleveland Browns. I don't understand the hostility about trading back in this year's draft class. It makes a ton of sense. I think this is closer to like the Cavs in 2013, where the Cavs had the number 1 overall pick and they had no idea what to do with it. So they just wanted to trade back, and nobody wanted to trade back with them. They couldn't find a trade back partner. I think the Browns are in more of that position because the quality of prospect that you could get at 6 is probably the same quality of prospect that you could get at 13. And if the Browns know that, then other teams know that. So that's going to be the difficult part, right? Like this is a draft where I think we're going to learn more about Andrew Berry than we did last year. Last year in the first couple of rounds, Andrew Berry, he dealt himself a pretty nice hand, right? He made that trade with Jacksonville. Jacksonville gave him an offer he could not refuse. It's too good of an offer to turn down. And he made really good with what Jacksonville gave them, which was a really, really good hand, right? Quincy, Carson Schlesinger, Mason Graham, right? Like just some really, really great selections with the hand that he was given. This year, he's going to be dealt a more difficult hand. Even if he tries to find a trade back, I anticipate that to be much more difficult than it was last year. And if he can't find a trade back, he's in a pretty tough spot. What do you do if you can't find a trade back? How do you get number 6 overall value from that pick, right? Do you just hope that Monroe Freeling plays up to that billing, even though he's not traditionally what you would expect to play up to that billing? Do you hope that Carnell Tate lives up to that billing, even though traditionally you wouldn't expect him to be a guy who goes number 6 overall in a draft? Or do you take a swing on a Ruben Bain or a swing on a Caleb Downs? The Browns are going to have to get creative here to get value out of these first 2 rounds this year. And they have 2 picks in the first round and another pick in the second round. That's what I'm looking forward to, right? Like Andrew Berry has had to pass, and to his credit, I think he has done a good job of passing a good amount of tests over the last 2 years, especially when it comes to the draft. Right, what he did last year was spectacular. The trade back that he found from 2 to 5, I didn't anticipate that. I didn't see that one coming. I was very impressed with what he was able to get out of that. If he's able to find a really good trade back that keeps him in range to still get Monroe or one of the 3 wide receivers we're talking about, I'll be very impressed with that. But I think the level of difficulty to get those things done this year, when there's not a good basis to sell that number 6 overall pick, right? He is selling bad real estate with that number 6 overall pick. And if he's able to flip that for positive value, then I'll be really impressed, right? Because I think it's a difficult job for Andrew Berry this year, where number 2 was prime real estate last year. You could just whip around Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, right? Like, there were legitimate prospects in that draft class that just don't come around every class that you could say, hey, look, you can have the opportunity to get this guy. And this guy's going to be a Micah Parsons level player, or, a unicorn that we've never seen before that is only comparable to the best player in baseball of the last 25 years, right? Like that was fertile ground, good ground to do a flip for Andrew Berry, and he did a great job with it. This one, it's a little bit more difficult. You could sell Ruben Bain to somebody. You might be able to sell Sonny Styles to somebody. Might be able to sell Caleb Downs to somebody, but it's going to take a lot more work than it did last year. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me that trading back makes sense this year, given the parameters given the context of the Browns situation? Or do you think the Browns should just sit and pick at 6 and not worry about trying to get extra value? Or do you think that one of these prospects is a blue chip prospect? If so, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.